Fasting is all the rage, not just during Lent. Self-help books promise it'll incinerate excess fat, spruce up your DNA, prolong your life. There's a new scientific study which has backed up some health claims about eating less. The clinical trial reveals that cutting back on food just 5 days a month could help prevent or treat age-related illnesses like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Recently on social media, I saw someone talking about the 100-hour fast. That's 4 days and 4 hours, just taking in water. And I think you can maybe drink black coffee along with that, but talking about how that can totally reset your immune system and so forth. Let's get the skinny on fasting with Pam Killeen, health and wellness coach, co-author of The Great Bird Flu Hoax, and of course the host of the Circadian Reboot with Pam Killeen podcast. Hey Pam, welcome back.
It's great to be here as always, Richard. I love talking about this subject. It is quite controversial. It's not as black and white or as cut and dried as people might think, because not everybody can fast. I need to start off with that because I don't want everybody taking this all very literally. If we have time, I'll get into why it can be dangerous for certain people to fast. But you're absolutely right. There is a lot of research to show the benefits of fasting, and there's quite a long list of benefits if it's done properly by people who are relatively healthy to begin with. The history of fasting, of course, goes back into biblical times and even earlier because of starvation. We may have been deficient in foods, and we, by default, had to fast just because we didn't have food around us. And then in biblical times, of course, they talk about fasting back then, and Hippocrates actually attributed a lot of ailments to gluttony. So he talked about eating in moderation as well. And then if we fast forward to the 15th century, there was a fellow by the name of Alvis Cornero, and he was very ill in his 40s, and he started to do dietary restriction, caloric restriction, and he cured himself of ailments that he was struggling with. And there is actually a book that was published in 1591 about his experiences in fasting. It's called Discourses on a Sober Life. I haven't read it, but it sounds like it might be an interesting read. And then when you go into the 1930s, Richard, there was some research showing that if you cut your calories down by 30%, you could live 30% longer. Now, this research was done in insects and animals, but nevertheless, it has been extrapolated to humans. And the word fasting can mean 1,000 different things, whether it's calorie restriction, intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, reducing your calories, like you mentioned, maybe 5 days a month, and feeling some benefits from that. So whatever I would say to people about fasting, Richard, is I think it has to be done by people who are relatively healthy in the first place. If you're doing this because you have some health challenges, you have to slowly and gradually merge into any definition of fasting that is going to be comfortable for you. But that clip that you showed me on social media shows all the different stages of benefits that can be reaped in terms of the number of hours that you're fasting, whether it's 0 to 14 hours, you're seeing benefits in your ability to use insulin, your level of autophagy, in other words, your body's ability to recycle dead cells. That starts kicking in at 16 to 17 hours of fasting. And then at 36 hours, this fellow that you showed me is talking about fat burning and how ketones kick in at 36 hours. And then he fast forwards to the benefits up to 100 hours of fasting and the different things that can happen in terms of your benefiting stem cells in the body. So
does that make sense? I mean, is that true? Like again, we'd have to caution people, don't just jump into this 100 hours. I would imagine there are some risks associated with that. Fasting for 100 hours.
I would be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's saying that you can start producing more stem cells, at a certain, point if you're fasting for 100 hours and also totally rebooting your immune system. What do you think of that? Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need to fast that long to feel those benefits or to reap the rewards of those benefits. I think you can do modified fasting in the form of, say, intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. So you can get those benefits by eating in a short window Potentially not every day of the week, but let's say you get up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and you finish eating at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's different time windows you can benefit from, but certainly, the shortest window would be 12 hours. So if you eat at breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning and you eat dinner at 7 o'clock at night, you're still fasting in that window between 7 p.m. and when you get up at 7 a.m. And you still can actually see some of these things happening already, even in a short window like that. So I don't think people should suffer. I don't think people need to feel miserable. If you're getting headaches and you're feeling miserable, then you're not doing it right, or you shouldn't be doing it at all. The other thing about fasting that a lot of people who are proponents of fasting don't tell you about is that if you have a very weak liver, and most people don't know that they have a weak liver, then what happens is if you're not taking in food, then it actually shuts down the bile production and release. And so you can get very toxic built up bile just by not eating. And so your bile can get very sluggish. And that's one of our main detoxification routes. And so we must be careful if we're fasting, because the signal to eating is gone. So we're not chewing on anything. So the bile gets repressed in the body. And the next thing you know, it just forgets how to work as it should. So, yeah.
What about
it's very interesting.
Sort of a modified form of fasting? Well, you mentioned intermittent fasting, and I've done that intermittently, 18 hours fasting, and then, you eat within a 6-hour window. Other people maybe just restrict their calories. They might eat one meal a day. What about restricting your diet, but then also like eating bone broth, a lot of bone broth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of bone broth, but again, it can be very high in your glutamates and so on. So some people could be very sensitive. People who have MCAS, for example, or have histamine issues, they have trouble with bone broth. You do have to be careful with bone broth. Some people have very adverse reactions to consuming bone broth because of those two things, the glutamates and the histamine reaction that people can get. So if you are making bone broth, try to do it at a very, very low temperature, or a temperature that's not boiling it all night long, for example. But just gently simmer it for about 8 hours. Try not to do it too long, and that will reduce this reaction to the glutamates and the histamine.
All right. Well, for those who are considering fasting, do some research, consult with your physician, let them know what you're doing, and be careful. But it does have benefits if done responsibly, I suppose is the word.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can regrow brain cells. You reduce inflammation. There's a lot of research to show it can be beneficial even for people who are struggling with cancer. So there are a lot of benefits, Richard, but you're right. People need to be cautious about it and do a ton of research to see if it's right for them.
Pam Killeen, health and wellness coach, co-author of The Great Bird Flu Hoax, and the host of the Circadian Reboot with Pam Killeen. Her website, pamkilleen.com. Pam Killeen, KILLEN.com. Pam, thank you as always.
Thanks, Richard.